Hello beautiful monarchs! Welcome back to my channel! I hope you're having a lovely day, afternoon or night, wherever you are. If not, I hope it gets better! Let's enter the intriguing world of literature and think about the books we read when we were kids. What was your favourite book series when you were a kid? Were you into series like Princess Ponies, Dork Diaries, a series of unfortunate events, or perhaps Artemis Fowl? Were you into fantasy, sci-fi or action books? Or any other genre? Did you ever get really invested in a book series to the point where you were trying to find your name on the front cover? When I was a kid, I found myself in that exact situation with Rainbow Magic. If you're out of a loop about Rainbow Magic, don't worry, I will help you back in. Rainbow Magic is a British children's book series created by working partners. However, Mattel is currently the owner of the franchise, with IOM Media Ventures holding some licensing rights. The books were first published in 2003, and the series is still currently ongoing today. The books are ghostwritten by a group of authors under the pen name Daisy Meadows. Each book has a special thanks page dedicated to whoever wrote the book. The books were originally illustrated by Georgie Ripper from 2003 to 2007. The illustrations from the books are now being done by illustrators from Orchid Books, who are also responsible for the publication of the books. In America, changes are made to certain books, with the most notable changes being the name changes. As of right now, a whopping total of over 200 books have been published. The books are usually compiled in sets of 7 or 4. However, the books can also be one-off specials too. The one-off specials are often 3 stories combined into one book. The books centre around 2 human girls called Kirsty and Rachel, who are best friends with each other. And they are also friends with the fairies from Fairyland. In each book, the big bad evil Jack Frost and his little minions, the goblins, steal an object from 7 or 4 fairies, or 1 or 3 objects from one fairy, for selfish purposes, resulting in things going wrong in both the human world and Fairyland, prompting Kirsty and Rachel to help the fairies get their objects back in order to set things right again. The series that started off this beloved franchise is The Rainbow Fairies. There are 7 books in the series, which are Ruby the Red Fairy, Amber the Orange Fairy, Saffron the Yellow Fairy, Fern the Green Fairy, Sky the Blue Fairy, Izzy the Indigo Fairy, and Heather the Violet Fairy. The books revolve around Rachel and Kirsty's first meeting and their first visit to Rainspell Island, where they meet Ruby and find out that Jack Frost had not only taken all the colour away from Fairyland, but also banished Ruby and her 6 sisters to Rainspell Island, all because the fairies had forgotten to invite him to the Fairyland Midsummer Ball. So Rachel and Kirsty decide to help Ruby find her sisters and bring colour back to Fairyland. You may be wondering, does Rainbow Magic have a film or TV series based on the books? Well, it doesn't have a TV series, but it has a beautifully animated film.
All together now, girls. Let's make a little rainbow magic.
Rainbow Magic: Return to Rainbow Island is a straight-to-DVD film that was co-produced by Hit Entertainment and the Answer Studio. The film was released in 2010, and surprisingly, it was only released in the UK and Japan, despite the franchise's popularity in other countries. Although it was released in Japan, the film was only dubbed in English. The film is almost a direct sequel to the Rainbow Fairies series. The film's story revolves around Rachel and Kirsty returning to Rainbow Island and reuniting with the Rainbow Fairies. Rachel starts to doubt her belief in fairies when she gets picked on by the mean girl Lydia and her other bully friends, which also causes Rachel and Kirsty to quarrel. Meanwhile, Jack Frost, with the help of his goblins Edison, Newton and Leonardo, are hatching a plan to create a snowman army in an attempt to take over both Fairyland and the human world. The film begins with a very quick recap of the Rainbow Fairy set, which also blends in with a retelling of the ending of Heather the Violet Fairy. Like I mentioned earlier, the film's animation is gorgeous. In fact, it's one of the best I've seen. The soundtrack for the film is quite good. The songs may be short and sweet, but they fit in nicely and they're pretty catchy. Although Jack Frost's song kind of shows up out of nowhere, it does its job of being a villain song. Another thing about this film that stands out to me and admire is its anti-bullying message. We see Rachel and eventually Kirsty getting bullied for their belief in fairies and eventually standing up to those bullies. I love how it's not afraid to clarify that the advice of ignoring your bullies doesn't always work. Although we get to see more of the Rainbow Fairies, they only get 10 minutes of screen time and 4 minutes of dialogue, which I find disappointing considering that they are a core part of the franchise. Overall, if you're a fan of the Rainbow Magic books, or want to feel nostalgic, or you just like fairies in general, I recommend giving Return to Rainbow Island a watch. Ever since the first publication of the Rainbow Magic books, the franchise has gone through a lot of development over the years, which is expected for such a popular franchise. Over 21 years have passed since the Rainbow Fairy set was first published. The franchise's popularity not only allowed it to have hundreds of books, but also a film and eventually a pantomime-style live show. But how have the books themselves developed? The books used to be in sets of 7, until the School Days Fairies set was published, where the sets were now reduced to 4 books. The cover designs of the books have so far gone through 3 designs over the past few decades, where the illustrations have some changes made to them too. Another thing about the books that have changed is the subjects. In the earlier books, the subjects revolved around natural aspects of the world, such as colours, the weather, and flowers. Over time, the books started to revolve around different subjects, such as holidays, sports, and music. Oh, and they have also made books based on the British royal family and other celebrities as well. There are also books based on trends, such as loom bands, slime, squishies, and bubble tea. I think this is because Orchid books are just trying to cash in on what's popular with kids nowadays. The representation in the books has now become more diverse than it used to be. For a long time, all of the fairies have been female. That is until in 2019 when they published Jade the Boy Band Fairy, who is the first male fairy. In that same year, the Discovery Fairy set was published. The last book in that series, Elsie the Engineer Fairy, is the first book to feature a disabled fairy. In Hope the Welcome Fairy, which was published in 2023, we are introduced to two new protagonists, called Gracie and Khadijah, who befriend and join Rachel and Kirsty on their fairy adventures. Gracie was born without her left hand, and she's also the first character to have same-sex parents. And Khadijah has an older brother who is diabetic. The addition of Gracie and Khadijah made me wonder if they're planning to eventually retire Rachel and Kirsty completely, similar to how they retired Ash from Pokemon. I honestly really love the direction that Rainbow Magic is going in. I think it's a really good thing that the series is educating kids about different family dynamics, disabilities, chronic illnesses, and many more important things. However, I do believe the franchise has had some missed opportunities regarding the merchandising. Although plushies and paper dolls of the Rainbow Fairies were produced, I think the series has potential to release fashion dolls of the fairies, similar to the Precure dolls. Sorry to ramble on about merchandise. This is just my silly personal opinion. Sadly, that's all I've got time for this video today, Monix. I'm afraid it's time to close the curtains and say my goodbyes. Thank you ever so much for watching this video and coming across my channel. I hope you've had a wonderful time. If you have, that's great. If you haven't, that's okay too. This type of content isn't everyone's cup of tea. If you want to know when I next post a video, feel free to subscribe so you don't miss out. Well, I've got to fly away now. Once again, thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope you tune in for the next video and stay happy. Bye bye!